Welcome to the first episode of our podcast Crit Sacked, where we will talk about just different kind of things within the Card Fight Vanguard game, whether it be a specific format, specific cards, our views on whatever we deem necessary to talk about. And for this specific episode, we are going to be talking about the most recent premium ban list. For now, we're going to start with the premium format. And
Wait, before we start, guys, be sure to head to YouTube and check out VVPT for our YouTube videos, gameplay, and deck text that we have posted.
this is being posted on the VPT YouTube channel, right?
Is it? Well, there you go. You're already there.
Yes, be sure to check out the channel for any premium deck profiles. So far, we mainly just have premium content, but we do have plans to go ahead and branch out into the standard format as well, because especially with the most recent Festival Collection 2022 that came out, we have a lot of brewing ideas and we would like to share them with you. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. And another thing is that a lot of these takes are going to be just that. They're going to be our takes, as well as just kind of like our opinions. So you can always take things with a grain of salt, or if you have a point to make, something like that, be sure to comment it down below. But what I'm basically trying to say is, if we take kind of like a take that you don't really accept or kind of like see within our point of view, that is completely fine. If you have a point to make that you didn't hear within this podcast, be sure to leave it down in the comments so that we kind of get the most broad idea of this premium format that we can. With that being said, let's go ahead and start with the ban list that was just released. I believe it was on the 8th, right? July 8th?
Yes. Zero is the 23rd. The ban list takes effect 22nd.
Sounds good. So the first we can talk about, I guess, one of the more impactful hits, in my opinion, which is the Mega Colony restricted to 1 of Fabricated Dragon of Ruination. So first we can start with Jacob, who has probably the most experience with the deck, being a pilot for a certain amount of time. How did you react to this specific hit?
Well, we all saw it coming, right? That this deck couldn't really survive beyond this ban list solely because of the effect that it had on the players in the game, Personally, I could have seen a world where this wouldn't have gotten hit and we would have been fine. But Mega Colony inducing such a control playstyle that people would find annoying or otherwise demotivating to play the format, and especially for new players coming in and checking out this format. This deck, if it wasn't going to be oppressive like post premium collection, post V Clan collection, it was still going to have a negative impact on the format solely based on casual players' eyes, people that want to come in and play the game. So it wasn't probably necessary to hit. I think they did just fine. It's not worth running the 1 of and the Order engine in Mega Colony. And, I do agree, in such a controlled play style that Gridora insinuates, you probably shouldn't have that massive card draw. So there's nothing that surprises me here. We do lose a control deck we might have needed, but we just kind of have to see where the format takes us as we go on. That's what I have to say about it.
I see. I do agree that, especially heading into this BRO format, we may need the control deck. I do believe that the main aspect of this hit, it kind of does kill the deck because it does ruin its consistency as well as its card draw off of the persona right as well as the use of the book. That kind of just makes it so that you only really get the draws off the book on your grade 3 turn, which makes the longevity of the deck, especially when it starts getting later and later into the game, it really starts to become apparent that it can't draw as often as it would like.
Yeah, I mean, Bushi did, right? Personally, this is me. My experience with the deck. I think it was a bad hit. I would have rather had. I don't know. I would have rather had the deck still be in the format.
Mm-hmm.
Just because through test play, I realized or I figured out that it wasn't the boogeyman that we all thought it was. It was more of a peacekeeper amongst every deck. It was the one deck that you kind of had to think about a little harder to out. Um, but it wasn't unstoppable. So I mean that's
Yeah,
just me personally. Um, I understand what Jacob said. It's to let new players come into the format, but I would say that would make sense more so for standard. We're talking about premium. Premium is the most competitive format. There are still over triggers, but you don't play with over triggers like that in premium. You can't always think about them being the thing that's gonna stop your gameplay, I guess. So it's like if we're gonna have a decision based on that, I understand that for standard. It's the one. It's getting consistent content. It's getting consistent new cards. It's like okay, but premium, we were just in a really good state deck wise. We still are, but I think I see clear, at least for BRO. There's gonna be a clear choice to go if you just want to go in with a meta deck and you just kind of want to win.
Can I ask something? Why is Gridora allowed to be within the format when Ruination, took the hit? Like instead, why not Gridora?
Because the main thing is the card draw, right? So, to quote,
the
I
card draw plus the
believe,
power gain.
yeah, so it gives you your board numbers as well as refills your hand because outside of the Persona Ride Plus book, it doesn't have too much card draw outside of, I believe it's one stride, and that's kind of like a conditional kind of stride. So this is more of a hit towards the consistency rather than the
Think about this.
hue.
Why is it allowed to be within every other, Stoichea clan, but not Mega Colony? Why is that allowed in Great Nature, in Neo Nectar, but not Mega Colony?
Now that is a good point. I
That
think
consistency
that a lot
exists
of
in
people
all the
are
other nations.
yeah. I think a lot of people are up in arms that Ruination is a problem card in general. I don't see it taking a long time until it breaks another clan. There's a chance that we would see it be restricted in all at premium. Honestly, I think I could see a world where that happens.
Okay, but you're saying breaks another clan. I mean, yeah, right. Like Gridora stacks. It doesn't let you play the game, and it just made Gridora, for me, more fair because in a game where everything is kind of breaking the game, like what Gridora wasn't doing anything different. Ruination is
Hmm.
bringing lower tier decks, Gridora, Big Belly, I don't know, Asha, and if that's what it's if it's letting them compete, Gridora. End of the day, like personally, it wasn't. It set a bar. Your deck can't out this. you know, maybe it wasn't top tier, or maybe it wasn't like A, you know, B, because B tier decks still can out Ghidorah, but it wasn't completely shutting out every deck. A lot of decks still had very good matchups against it. So it's like, I don't know. The way I think about it is like, it's letting certain decks compete. This time it was Ghidorah. Maybe next time it's gonna be Big Belly. Maybe next time it's gonna be uh, Asha tokens, or Neo Nectar Musketeers. I don't know.
Okay, but how about this? How about Ruination in Grand Blue in a deck that already is like, even like disregarding Scare Deck and what we project to be one of the best decks in the format, base Grand Blue and what we've seen from Grand Blue in like the last year is really good, right?
Yeah.
People are implementing Ruination in this deck. You know, you Bad Bounty, discard 3 into Ruination, you get your cards back, and you buff your board. All of a sudden, you feel zero neg from going Bad Bounty. When Bad Bounty is kind of meant to be that finisher stride, and you're not meant to have as much gas after it. You know what I mean? Like, it's meant to be your main finisher, but Ruination completely um, says, okay, you're going to be fine. Here's your cards back. It does step in a pretty scary territory. Like, I would rather see these clans get good support from like V Clan Collection, and like you know, I would like to see stuff from Standard too. But Ruination was a fundamentally poorly designed, because of a card that exists already. You know, and the thing is even if you got rid of Book, there's a Zorga Order that you can just play in its place. Yeah, you don't get the power gain. It may be a significant downgrade, um, but you still have the fundamental draw power that you can splash into any deck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we probably don't have to see it yet. I'm not saying like, okay, we should have just gotten rid of Ruination right away. I think it was a fine hit personally. Like, Redora, without Ruination, um, doesn't have power output. The new stride helps. You know what I mean? And Blister kind of helped the deck sing too. And I think that's the direction that we should head, and Bushi should head, is developing good support for the clan, specifically for the clan, you know?
Yeah, but that's kind of like the thing, right? Is that without that standard card, Mega Colony stops you from playing the game, but it doesn't really allow you to play the game itself.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it's better for the clan to be able to play the game uh, gradually. I know it's like, oh my god, Mega Colony becomes good, it becomes playable, but in Ruination's case, it was um, while the deck probably was not going to be top tier in like the coming month. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
probably would have been A tier at best. It was too gradual and set a bad precedent for premium's like lifespan.
I mean, yeah, I just don't agree with the hit altogether. I guess this brings us to the other part of the ban list. I would have rather seen them hit Nightmare Dolls more than Mega Colony or Order Colony.
Let me say, this is you can say, and it's very fair to say, this is a hit to Pale Moon, not Dolls, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
Because
mean,
it impacts all of Pale Moon, all the rest of Pale Moon, way
Not dolls.
more than it hits Dolls.
yeah, this hit kind of nerfed everything else harder than it did dolls. The main thing that it did to dolls is just change a slot energy zone, which was meant for flip fodder anyways. So I think you had said it best, Jacob, when we were first talking about it, that it mainly just upped the price of the deck, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, because you're either playing a bunch of events, which are what $10-15 at the time of recording, or you could buy Fairfields,
which are about
which are
35.
way more expensive. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's give and choose of which Magia stride you really want to like replace this with. But in terms of like impactfulness, the only situation that you really take away is being able to set up your turn if you were to go into Harry. This mainly makes it so that Link Joker is a little more impactful against Nightmare Doll, but in terms of like this format that we're going into, Link Joker isn't really like a highly represented deck when it comes to the top tables. It's very rare that we see. I believe in the Springfest season that had just passed, we only saw it like a few times come up in Premium, whereas the representation of Dolls and Order Colony was much, much higher.
What I'm seeing is they don't want the Alice Ginny Leslie engine to be splashed in other decks. Um, while at the same time, I think they expect and are ramping up the other decks to be more competitive, like versus dolls. You know what I mean? Like,
It kind of brings all of these other decks up to the same playing field.
yeah, I think that's what we're seeing with this like new support, and they probably expect a lot more people to be satisfied because their decks are scaling up so much that like dolls doesn't have the entire spotlight anymore.
Yeah.
And like the meta surrounding dolls maybe like gets more fair um, because of the support that these other decks are getting. Um, now I don't think that it is that dolls is that fair still. What I was like reading, because I'm pretty sure Vanguard in Thailand, uh, they have a stride ruling where so long as your opponent has ridden grade 3 and you're on your grade 3 on your stride step, you can stride. So you're kind of eliminating the factor that ride down has and how unfair ride down is. I think that we should implement something like that here. I think that's going to be the right dolls hit, may I say?
It's
Like
more for
if
like
I
the
were to
long
see
term.
something, yeah, if I were to say I wanted to see something in the ban list, it's a whole ass rule change. Yeah,
Interesting.
So cool. That's change.
That's true. I would actually appreciate just in general a centralized rule settings. You know, instead of
yeah,
having one
because
in between nations.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because dolls isn't the only deck that rides down. There's plenty of decks that ride down. Um,
Mm.
I think Aquaforce and their ride down um, becomes ridiculous, especially with the new support.
True. Oh,
Bermuda,
especially.
the
Definitely.
same thing. The same
Definitely.
thing with Bermuda. And a lot of decks can do it. And I think if there's an unfair mechanic in premium, that's the unfair mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
It is
Yeah.
true.
That's
There are certain decks that just completely sputter out if they don't stride or do anything on their grade 3 turn.
yeah,
If the opponent
like
rides down.
yeah, because they literally were not allowed to.
Exactly.
With that, do we want to begin to move towards what we believe we should look out for within this BRO setting? Or should we move
Mm,
straight to the tier list?
I think we can
Um,
hit that along with the tier list. I
yeah, I
think
think
Yeah.
like
yeah.
yeah,
As
yeah,
we
we
can
go
move
into
on.
the tier list, we can probably talk about it as it comes up.
Um, immediate aspects, I believe. Well, let's just go ahead and let's go ahead and move this right here. Um,
But
unfortunately,
Angels there too.
which one?
I think
But Angels.
I wouldn't say angels just yet, just because of like the new stride that they
Slightly
got.
better.
Yeah,
Okay, we're talking the current format going into BRO.
exactly. So
Yeah.
with this new stride
So
taking into account, I would say that angels places a little higher. All right, so heading into this, what are some immediate S tier decks? So I believe we can all consent or come to a consensus with Bermuda.
Uh, Bermuda for sure.
hmm
After testing it out a day ago, I can say Bermuda for sure.
Mm, Geardick?
yeah, I dare say
Stay
Grand
away
Blue.
from Grammy.
Yep,
Grand
I
Blue.
completely agree with that.
Do we start name? Do we say Pale Moon?
We just talked about it. Pale Moon.
I believe
Yeah.
so. I believe that it would still be an S tier. The combo's exceptionally strong. It's kind of like how Jacob said. It's more of these decks, such as like Bermuda, Grand Blue, stuff like that. It's kind of bringing the power level of these decks to kind of match dolls rather than bringing dolls down. So I believe that we can still keep it an S.
What
I
else?
think, yeah, okay. Spikes.
Uh,
Spikes for sure.
Spikes.
Yep.
Spikes
Yeah.
definitely.
Spikes has the most ridiculous grade 2 game. Like, oh my god, it's
Yep.
so gross.
Um,
I would
Spikes
like
has
to
to be there.
put Narukami either in S or at the like top of A.
I would second that motion. Yeah.
I would actually put it with S just because of Exterminate at the moment.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
play
I would second
around
that
one
motion.
stride, you get hit with the other. While there are like some ways that you can try to like play around it, I would say that it's still definitely strong.
Um,
hmm
would DP be a contender, or the G guards actually holding it back in A tier?
No, I think with the new G Guard, it either holds it in A or like the top of A or into S.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I would say, like, um, very top of A.
I can
Very
agree
top
with
of
that,
A.
especially with the new G Guard and like the new G Guard just makes it so they have an insane defensive route late game. Like it's
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
insane.
They haven't, yeah. And the only thing, I think the only thing that holds DP back is their susceptibility to rush.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
if somebody
True.
refuses to let them play the game, it's a hard time.
Yep. I agree.
But once they go into the long game, what do you do?
Yeah,
Exactly.
if you get into strides and you get deep, you probably will not be able to kill a DP deck.
Yeah, it's kind of like the longer it goes, the harder it becomes to kind of like deal with it.
Okay, we just talked about it as well. Mega Colony. Where do we think that falls now after the ban list?
I
I
Should
think
have banned this.
would
I would say
say
B. I would say
B.
top of B. Uh,
Yeah,
mid to top of B. Yeah,
Jacob.
unless they make some crazy ass cradle mechanics that work. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, the deck is getting better support, thankfully. Um, but it gets, we still have a really big issue with power output. Um, I think it needs more testing.
Mm.
I have a deck that I'm
Definitely.
trying to put together. But I think B's fine.
Gotcha. With that, I would like to say that Aqua is also around top A. I don't know if I would put it in S just yet. Just because like the G guard that we got isn't exactly like the best. It's very good
Yeah,
like
but
situational. It does revolve around wave. However, like Aquaforce does have like some pretty solid G guards already.
yeah,
In
yeah. I
terms
think like the stride is what makes like
this jump.
Aquaforce have it standing. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The new stride is just another finisher. Um, it kind of like coincides with Alexandros as to whether or not you want to go into that or Furiargus. It's kind of just possibly matchup dependent, or like how the game goes. You can kind of like go into either one. I think it's very solid. I think it's going to be a very solid pick, as well as a very popular pick going into BRO, and even more so as soon as the Ripple cards come out in the next V Clan collection.
It's going to be
Can
gross.
can I can I make a claims for Tachi's being A tier?
Definitely, definitely.
Definitely. Personally, I do like the new support. I don't think it changed its standing much from the old meta to this new meta heading into BRO. Don't know if it's going to be seen. It's very multi attack, very touchy and gorge, or at least the build that I've been playing. Um, with the added benefit that, hey, if you can't get your engorged targets off, go into the new stride, get a 10k boost, uh, restand it a few times, and boom, you got yourself a another way of multi attacks with a power boost. And the G guard it's situational, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
It also has a gun.
It also
It
has a Glock.
has the
Yeah,
Glock.
you're right.
Yep, it has the
Has
blicky.
a Glock. Very
Oh
true.
man, the Glock. Dude, we had a great time with the Glock the other
We had
day.
a great
Yeah,
The
time with the Glock yesterday.
the Glockosaurus.
exactly. I would personally like to go ahead and put Luard over in the A tier. I would like to argue that it's probably going to be into the mid to low A tier as of right now, until we get the V Clan collection support in terms of Eldona, because the new stride is pretty decent. It's more of like the situational kind of stride, where you kind of only really go into it against the control matchups, where you can't really do too much with your rear guards, as well as like whatever matchup it is, if they don't really have a lot of rear guards on board.
What control matchups?
Uh, well, if Gridor is still a kind of a thing, you can still retire those for the new strides cost. So you kind of like you kind of make use of your stunned rear guards by being able to go ahead and remove them off of the board. So you're not just kind of like calling over and just wasting those rear guards, wasting those resources, as well as kind of like forcing your opponent to clear their own board. That's why I kind of said it's like it's a little bit matchup dependent, but what I mainly want to point out is the G card that we got. So there has been a lot of indifference whether or not to run like specific Luard grade 3s within your engine. It's mainly just been like all over the place, whether it be G series Dragfall, Dragheart, V series Luards, all that type of stuff. But now I think, especially with this new G Guard, it makes it very apparent to where this is clearly like the V Luard support, to where it kind of gives the deck more longevity, as well as preventing itself from decking out while also keeping it fair. In terms of the pressure, it would definitely have to wait until Illidona comes out. I think until that point, this deck is kind of going to stay in the mid A tier range, just because, the deck has been functioning pretty much the same for years since, like the Morphosis Strike came out. But I think as soon as we get the Eldona support, it'll start to slowly lean more towards like the chain ranker plays. As
Mm-hmm.
that deck kind of like progresses. So far during testing, I found that to be kind of like the better option when it's set up. But as for right now, especially heading into BRO, I would say around like the mid to low A tier.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a popular pick, anyways.
Yeah. Jacob, would you like to talk about gears moving forward?
Yeah, I was literally like going to right now. I was going to say, I think if we're going to talk about Luard in this light, I think Gears is very similar to Luard. And I think with this new stride, it's going to be like right next to Luard. Um, like
Wow.
we're playing with a lot of G cards, with a lot of G cards. I mean, but I think that Gears is really close to having a really good structured deck. Like the Stride, um, I've seen people compare the Stride to Katrina. Same thing with Galley and um, Schlishma are very reminiscent of Katrina. And while Katrina's better than Schlishma, um, I think you put up a very good offensive front. That's comparable to the offense that you get with a more Morpheus turn. I mean, I think that pressure is definitely going to change and stuff. But not even thinking about the V support, not even thinking about what that's going to do to Mystery Flare. What Mystery Flare looks like right now in general, um, while I don't think it's going to be a great deck going into BCS, I don't really see many people choosing to play it. I still think it's going to be a solid contender, and Lord knows what it's going to look like when this new support drops.
I see.
What else do we need? Novas. Jacob. Do you know anything about that as well?
Okay, I think Nova's had gotten better because it had a really good matchup in the Order Colony. And we're getting Sazanda's going to be available by the time BRO comes around. Personally, I think it is still going to get beaten into the ground by the premium support. I would say it's sitting with Mega Colony, which is very ironic.
What's your opinion on the G Guard?
You need 2 heals in hand to use your G Guard. To use that G Guard, you need 2 G Guards for that G Guard to be solid. And I think that it has a good chance while you're depending on the top of your deck. I think it still can save your ass, and make you live another turn. And when Nova Grappler has another stride turn, you're very much running the risk of dying that turn. So I don't think it's terrible, but it's also very demanding. Very demanding of your RNG already to draw into your heals and make sure you have heals on hand. Thankfully, you don't probably have to go into it all the time anyways. So yeah, I think it's going to sit with Mega Colony. While Mega Colony is getting good support, Nova Grappler has Sazanda. I think the deck's a little underrated, but I wouldn't say it's going to be like Shadows even or Gear Chronicle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I would like to say that Angels is probably going to be in the same spot as Nova and Order Colony. Just because with the new Stride, it's so generic that we have both NoCL and Gavriel lists kind of putting it into. It is pretty decent for Stride. You can generate your resources if you need to. It's kind of helps, generically, okay, would you rather farm for more resources and more drive checks, or would you rather help create more pressure within your board by spreading 10k across your front row? So that is pretty solid. The only thing that I know that was very, I wouldn't say lackluster, but kind of just missing from the Stride is turning a card from your G zone face up, because that makes it harder for you to get the either 3 or 5 cards face up for your Bassasail Stride in order to kind of set yourself up for the long game. But I think that with this Stride, it also allows you to be a little more aggressive early game. So I think just the adaptability and scaling of this Stride kind of gives it a little bit more, Angels a little bit more of a fighting chance against certain decks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in a format that Overture exists, you have a lot of benefit in hitting 6 drives.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, sir. I'd like to put up Murakumo for the next one.
Okay.
I'd like to say the new stride brings it up to either top of B as well or low A. I haven't
Interesting.
tested as much, but Shirayuki uh, has been impressive to me. It's topped a few times for Springfest, and I don't know. I really think the new stride really helped it. You don't have to rely on the Shibaraku Victor loop anymore. At least not as much. Uh, and it's just a tricky deck to play. Like I said, I haven't tested that
Hmm.
many builds, but I really like it, and I would say top B for sure.
Interesting.
I think that, I mean, while you don't have to depend on the Shivaraku Victor loop, I think you increase the scale of the deck a lot. Like, um, I think I would say that Murakumo beats Gears. I would say that Murakumo beats Luard. I think it deserves to be an A.
Ooh.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
I mean I do too, but I didn't want to say it so brashly and then be wrong when nothing tops.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, a lot of people are saying that Murakumo is going to be an S tier deck, though. Like,
yeah,
people
yeah,
are expected to be in the meta
yeah.
too, if
I
not S
agree.
then A.
I agree.
Yeah. So, I
Can I talk about
definitely think it deserves to be.
Interesting. Any
Oh,
other
you said
points
Kagura on that one?
about? Oh, Kagura?
Yeah, can I talk about Kagero?
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to put it in either the first or second place position for B.
Interesting. All right.
Mostly from the new stride. It doesn't answer the problem Kagero has because it's still pretty generic, as in it doesn't retire anything, but it's free, and it makes your wimpy rear guards not as wimpy,
I see.
which is Kagero's biggest issue.
Yeah, I think Kagura, like as a clan, the stride helps quite a bit. Mainly because I know that with the Dode and Dragonic Overlord type or subtype doesn't quite really go into the strides that much. It kind of like just has a G zone just in case.
Yeah, in case it goes that long.
Yeah, so I think it kind of gives, like generic Kagero something else to do.
Exactly.
So I can agree with that. I don't know enough about the deck to go ahead and, solidify its placing, but I think that it does kind of belong in like the B tier.
One of the best things about the stride is just the fact it's free. There's no, it's just a flip and that's it. And that's the one thing that Kagero needs is something that doesn't just eat a resource that you can't get back immediately. Um, Even with the G guard, it's pretty bad in some aspects if your opponent like is gold paladins, but in other ones it's like a one off because it's like the Kagero G zone is like a switchblade essentially where you just have certain G guard for certain situations.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Um, yeah, I'd say that's pretty solid. One thing that I would like to bring up is I would probably put Dark Irregulars, specifically No Life King in A.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because I believe with this new stride, it's clearly no Life King support because of the way that it's like worded. It's kind of like the Marduk effect. So
hmm,
it kind of like further extends your options. So honestly, like for DI in terms of like that regard, I really like it. I believe that it kind of gives the deck like a little bit more pressure that it needed. And I believe the fact that you can kind of like pull this off a little bit more early game, it can scale a little bit faster than some of the other decks in this tier. I don't know what the consistent win rate against certain decks are gonna look like, but I think it should probably be around like the bottom of A.
I
Well, how do we
so
compare it to
personally,
Murakumo?
I think Murakumo slaughters DI.
Yeah.
Murakumo
Yes,
slaughters
so
DI. I mean, personally, I would put I would put Murakumo higher. I saw you moving your cursor.
yeah,
Um,
I was gonna move
like
it
put it in
like
the middle
somewhere
of
up
yeah,
here.
put it in the middle of A. And I think I would even put DI in B. Like,
Really? Like
Mm.
higher B or lower?
yeah.
Interesting.
Um, I think it sits with like Nova Grappler. I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. I'd say yeah, right there. While the stride is good in terms of it being a generic card, like I think it helps out many archetypes
Mm-hmm.
of DI rather than just supporting no life gain. It doesn't add much to the to what the deck is already doing. You know what I mean? You're adding an extra Vanguard attack, um, and the off chance that you are putting criticals back. Um, but it's also into a 16 card deck, so that's also like up to judge because 9 times out of 10 you're slow charging most of your triggers anyways, so you don't have a huge impact there.
True. Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
you know, DI I think is scary. Um, if it really has its chance to blow up, but I also think it's easy to counter as well.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I don't think it has a lot of light. I I think DI needs a lot more than what it's getting now.
Yeah,
Even in like with the V set,
I get
like
you.
with the new V set. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other decks that you guys want to talk about specifically?
Yeah. Um, Genesis,
Okay.
or
Okay.
at the moment, Regalia the Clan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it still sits comfortably at A. I don't think it is top tier A anymore. It had a grade 2 uh Veratrum help it a lot, especially when guarding its field disruption. But you know, there are decks that do it that don't require multiple Vanguard swings to win the game. And that's kind of Regalia right now. At the moment, I would probably put it uh, probably maybe higher than Tachi's, but
Yeah.
I think it also gets beat out by an early game rush.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, that's exactly where I would have put it too.
I guess OTT.
Yeah.
With the new stride, it's pretty cool. It's pretty OD just because it's Susanoo on crack, essentially. Uh, what it solves, it's free, no? If I'm not mistaken, it doesn't cost a counterblast.
No, it does not. No, I think it's just
Yeah,
a flip.
yeah, that's the good thing about it, is that you can go into it to set up your first stride if they counterblast you for Momo. Which means that you can just set up for next turn as well into most likely your Chikishima, because what else do you go into?
True. That instantly puts you
Yeah.
into the GB3 necessary for Ichikishima.
Basically, it gives you a good first stride that doesn't need a resource while gaining you a lot of advantage to hold out for Chikishima.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and like when you're sitting on the engine that already is Calico, Amaterasu, Silent Tom,
Mm-hmm.
um, you still have these tools to give your Vanguard insane power, um, and the new stride just kind of unlocks. I think it unlocks those decks that need to use their resources, like you said. You know what I mean? It lets these decks really play the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess in terms of ranking, I
I
would
think it's a
probably
menace in
put it
B
at
tier.
I think it's a Medicine Beach here.
Yeah, like the bully in B tier. Without, it's nothing too uh oppressive. but it's beatable.
Yeah, maybe like definitely. I think it's above Mega Colony. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would have probably put it above
It just
above
fails to rush.
rules.
That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. Either above Gears or above Shadows. I would say
Oh, in
maybe,
A?
but I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, like maybe I think it's like a low A tier deck.
Put it here, just for
Low A tier, I say.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty solid where it's
Hmm.
at. After that, I just want to bring up Link Joker real quick. I'm definitely gonna put this at around like B tier. I want to put it around like kind of somewhere like around here in B tier, probably right here or so, just because this is basically Dode, but keeping the triple drive in a sense, and it's a little more high rolly rather than. So that's kind of like the thing is like, okay, like do you want a little bit more pressure or do you want, like more consistency? Because it definitely is, like the high roll deck, especially
Hmm.
with losing out on all of the reverse unit options. I definitely think that kind of negs all of the options that they had in terms of the premium collection stuff. The G Guard is okay. It nets you, like, it refunds your card in hand, and it kind of helps you set up for your restanding plays. In terms of the stride, it's pretty good if you just absolutely don't see any of your pieces. But the deck is still, like high rolly. There's always that chance that the effects aren't going to pop off. And if your effects don't really pop off, then you're not really doing too much in terms of a game plan. So if anything, I'd probably move it probably like right there.
Now, I'm gonna bring this up as another perspective because you brought up the restand factor and on a lot of several things.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to put Link Joker somewhere with an A because the early rush of the leaders is still a real thing.
Ah, you're right.
The leaders itself as a subclan still does substantially well. Mostly because it does the same thing that Overlord does, and just saying I don't want you to play the game because I'm going to end it on turn 3.
Then isn't there the Overlord problem? That what if it goes past turn 3? What happens then?
You at least have decent strides with the deleters because they still do the same thing, or you just burial in them, which is just crack when you're deleted.
Yeah, Burial End is a pretty powerful card, especially like when you are uh, setting your opponent up with the deleted Vanguard. You set them at 0, you wipe all your markers,
Exactly.
and it just, powers up and makes that turn like just that much more threatening.
The potential fact it has a restand too that it isn't needed to like any condition. It just doesn't need a hit. It's just a free restand essentially.
Mm-hmm. Oh, with Given and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, given can be spammed. So
I think we even saw, wasn't there a deleter top?
There was a delete
very
pop for
very
BSO. Yeah.
recently, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that reasoning, do we feel that the deck should move up to A?
I beg to say that I think Shadows is still kind of a divide in terms of like what's good and what still needs improvement.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So should we move Shadows like down a little bit from A tier or?
No,
I think what you can do is move the decks under it in A tier, so OGT and Gears down. I think that Mega Colony should get moved down significantly.
Yeah, especially like compared to like some of these, especially with
Because
the hit.
I think right there it looks fine.
Moving on, do we want to talk about let's see. What should we talk about? Royals?
Yeah, because I mean, like I guess the best deck for Royal Paladin would be Jewel Knights. the thing with Jewel Knights is that you can smack with a drive check. You know what I mean? This is kind of reminiscent of like Regalia.
Yeah.
And you have, your rear guards under good force markers. And I mean, I think that the deck does have a lot of body, like, or it makes up with what is just a V engine,
Hmm.
albeit a good V engine with a really good multi attack and a really good drive check.
Yeah.
You know, um, I would say like under Taji's.
Under which one? Tachi's?
Under Tachi's, yeah.
Interesting.
I think that is a little subject to testing, but I think that's where I would put it.
Yeah. So I think we can kind of like just sum up the rest of these pretty well. I think that's definitely gonna go there. Nectar. I mean,
Yeah,
they have like a pretty good new like stride now. I don't know how well the G card performs, but in terms of that, I think the deck definitely needs like a lot more to work with. In terms of golds, I would probably keep it. Uh,
If it's not gonna be, I would probably put it a B.
yeah,
I
I was
think
thinking
Gold
around like
is really
B or
gonna
A.
shine in V Clan collection.
Yeah,
Um, but
as
right
soon as they
now,
get Holy Shine.
I think it's probably top of B,
Yep.
probably
Some very high roll deck.
very high roll deck.
Great Nature, I guess, could go.
It still has deck out issues though, right? So I would say like probably around like DI.
The fact it's just a multi attack deck with numbers, like, it's basically Tachikaze, but decks out like 10 times
yeah.
faster.
I mean, like the I think the problem with Great Nature is that it doesn't have a good early game. Like,
Yeah.
I think,
No,
At all.
yeah,
like, I
because
think it's like you can say it's Tachi's, but with the Grade 2 game of like Genesis, you want to get into the late game with Great Nature.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why like it won't see S. I don't think it sees A. Um,
No. I would
Definitely
say it's
below
you know,
probably at
Link.
least above Kagero.
no, I think below Link Joker.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm kind
you
because
of
think
thinking
it
as
is?
well.
Kagero, end of the day, wants to do its thing on grade 3, and Great Nature wants to do.
A little
Uh,
later.
yeah, I think
I
then Victor
mean,
should be bumped up.
This way.
No, Victor
Yeah, I
should be
think that.
bumped up.
Oh,
or
Victor
Nova
needs to be bumped
Grappler.
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nova Grappler maybe can be bumped up to because I think Nova Grappler beats League Joker.
Oh, 100% with
You literally
Yeah.
just
their G
unlock.
guard. So it's around here,
yeah.
I would say. Anywhere from like
I think that's
around.
actually a lot better. I
Yeah.
think that where Great Nature is right there is actually pretty fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has the same syndrome as DI, where it's like they need to get to their game, and like compared to other decks, it's a lot easier to prevent like Great Nature and DI
Hmm.
Hmm
from getting to their game.
Nubatama.
Yeah,
Nubatama. Where are we putting this?
Nubatama. I think Nubatama goes below Mega Colony because
Yeah.
this deck literally, I don't think it gets upgraded at all. I mean, like Magatsu's cool. We were saying, hitting with uh, hitting with a bunch of drive check as Magatsu does is cool. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? I don't think uh, I don't think dominate or Daihosen uh,
Is more
give
of like
the
the
deck
prevalent deck.
enough. Yeah, I don't think it makes it prevalent enough to like beat these other decks. Especially, I think with what Mega Colony can become. I don't
Yeah.
think
I
that
think
it
Mega
will end up
Colony.
beating Mega Colony.
I think Mega Colony still has like a lot of potential, especially like with these new future sets now. Like I think
hmm
Bushi can have like a lot in store for it. I don't think they would just like leave it in the dust like that. Right? So with that,
Yeah.
this is kind of pretty much what we're expecting from BRO is kind of like mainly like these top two lists with maybe like a splash of B, pretty much.
I think in
hmm
terms of what you should consider bringing, it's anything in A or above.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that B is hard to consider bringing into solo tournaments.
Yeah,
I
from
guess
from a
if you want to
competitive
word it that way.
standpoint, yeah. Well, other
Yeah.
than that, I think that's gonna bring it up to a close for our first podcast. Anyways, thank you for whoever is listening. Again, leave any of your comments, any takes, anything like that down into the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and be on the lookout for more content from this channel.
Goodbye.
And ban over triggers and premium.
Ban over triggers and premium.
Nah, overtriggers are okay.
Don't listen to him.
That's going to be a separate podcast.